And it's time for another AMD video here today. So the stock is up about 250% just in a year. And I know there are a lot of shareholders out there who are investing in maybe the second biggest GPU company in the world. And what we want to do here today is take a look into the future and see whether or not this increase in stock price is sustainable. A lot of AI companies has their stock price skyrocket the latest year. So as a as an investor, it's hard to know which of these companies long term is the best pick. And I would say that Wall Street has made it easier for them because they have just pumped every AI stock almost out there, every AI infrastructure play. And in the long term, you need to pick the real winners with improved margins and the companies that really has an edge long term. And today we're gonna take a look under the hood here for AMD and see if they are that type of company. In this channel, I have talked about AMD a couple of times throughout the years, and this has been a company that I have seen taking the correct steps long term, year after year, in terms of addressing the increased needs of compute in the world. And I think their leadership, especially Lisa Su, has provided a playbook that is working phenomenal, addressing the CPU situation way back and gaining market share from Intel, and now the latest couple of years closing in on Nvidia in the GPU space. And they are also um, obviously doing a lot of other things good. So let's see what's behind the hype, the increase here in the stock price, and also see if it's sustainable. Is the valuation sustainable long term, or is this just another hype stock that is pumped? That is what I want to show you today. A lot of things has been a tailwind for AMD the last couple of years, or maybe the last 10 years, because they started up as a competitor to Nvidia in the graphic card space with some GPUs. They were a very, very small company, and after that, they had just expanded their roadmap overall to address the computational needs of the world, and especially starting to grab market share from Intel through their CPUs offering. And now they have the Epic series and maybe the best CPUs out there, increasing their roadmap. So that is one part. And now more lately, they have really expanded their GPU offering in the data center space with a lot of solutions. Their MI 300X and 350X series moving into the newer generation, with the hype getting higher this summer with a lot of deals for the MI 450X series going forward. And what we see at the moment, the two deals that are really affecting AMD specifically in terms of the long term revenue estimations, I would say, is their deals they have with OpenAI and Meta. So this is very AMD specific deals here that are really driving their revenues through the stratosphere in terms of what we have seen historically and the future of AMD. And they are between we have seen before and where we are heading. And I think this has been where the marketplace has mispriced AMD, because 1 year ago, a lot of AI companies or semiconductor companies, because saying AI companies might not really address what they do, but companies that address the connectivity and the future computational needs of the world, like Broadcom, Nvidia, etc. For many years, the stock price of these companies has increased a lot, but AMD was still around like $100 a share, and it was very, very low. So I felt very confident in terms of the deal that AMD started to struck, and the type of um, um, products that they provided to the world, and the relationship they have built with hyperscalers, that this company is really, really important, and they are the very second best next to Nvidia in terms of GPUs, and they are actually going um, next to Intel and even better than Intel in terms of CPUs. So for me, it was just a timing, a perception of timing, and the stock price was quite mispriced. And that's why we have seen like 250% gains in just 1 year. And why is Wall Street getting more confident with AMD? Well, we have this deal with OpenAI regarding a 6 gigawatt deployment of AMD's GPUs. And as an investor, it might be hard to say, oh, what's 6 gigawatts? That do not tell us very much. But if we go down here a bit, we can get a better understanding of how much this really is. So basically, they're saying that sure, strong leadership, etc. So under this agreement, OpenAI will work with AMD as a core strategic compute partner, and they're going to use the next rack scale solutions, the MI450 series, and the partnership creates a true win-win situation for the companies through this agreement, where OpenAI gets a warrant. So they, after the deployments, they will get like a little part of AMD's ownership through shares, etc. And the scale of a 6 gigawatt deployment in the AI land, I guess, is around a full contract, maybe $100 billion. So if you split that over the years where the deployment is, for example, uh, let's say if it's 4 years, then you have 25 billions per year in revenue, and that is like a whole year before for AMD. And just having that in 1 year, that tells you something about the immensely size of the deal. And if you put that kind of revenue streams inside the company's valuations and the metrics we evaluate companies, like price through sales, potential price through earnings, etc., you will see um, that the stock price, if this deal actually materialize, which it will do, will mean a lot of more money and sustainable revenues for the company. And we have also seen Lisa Su in a couple of meetings address the growth trajectory of AMD, and she has said like the company is supposed to have 35% revenue growth a couple of years in a row now. And adding that, you will also quite easily understand the math that this company is not very richly valued compared to similar semiconductor companies. And now I'm speaking through like a year ago, and seeing this 250% gain has been, uh, I would say, not very surprisingly for me as a long-term investor in AMD, because the deals are simply too big to be ignored in terms of revenue. And yeah, having this deal with OpenAI obviously is huge for AMD. Maybe you did see earlier in the week that we had some rumors about OpenAI maybe not reaching their metrics, core metrics in terms of user growth, revenue growth, and that is why AMD took a small hit. So um, sometimes it's hard as an investor if you don't know the deals that behind why some stocks moves together. But I still think that OpenAI going public, they will get a lot of money so they can reinvest. So they are still going to do this deployment. That is like the oxygen of OpenAI. They need to deploy and build GPUs. They can't just stop. And even if they just fulfill like 70 or 80% of the deal they have with AMD here, it will still be a huge revenue stream for AMD. And the second one is Meta, and that's also 6 gigawatts. And it's a very similar deal they had with OpenAI, and the estimations here was also around one total deal of $100 billion. So put them together, and you have almost like you double the revenue of the whole AMD just with these two deals going forward from the autumn of 2026. And that is, you don't have to see very long forward and project the numbers very long to understand how much difference this will be in terms of revenue growth and probably market cap for the company if they just execute on the deals. Obviously, the deals hinge on the fact that they need to deploy, they need to deliver, it need to be a good product, and these companies, Meta and OpenAI, they need to continue to have a decent capex in terms of what they say and do to being able to pay AMD for the deployments. But we have seen, for example, Meta's latest quarter, they said they are going to increase their capex even to, I think, what it was $135 billion or something. So I'm not the least, what can I say, worried that Meta won't follow through. And OpenAI obviously going public, they need to continue to invest, and having AMD, if they actually lack a bit revenue, AMD is a great choice for them because AMD is cheaper than Nvidia, and they need to have deals with a lot of companies, not just Nvidia, to decrease the price they have for their own capex. I think these two deals will still be deployed, and that is one part of my thesis why AMD stock is up so much in a year. They have the core businesses they have had, the increase in GPUs, CPUs, and these two deals kind of making the company more, um, what can I say? People see them as a real competitor to Nvidia in a way they did not do before. So some of that is now priced in with a 250% gain, but I still think there is room to go when we see actually on paper the real growth trajectory of this company and the new deals they have. So that's the next part of this video. I want to show you some new deals that AMD has now with a couple of instances. For example, the France government. I think I have pinpointed the two most important news that has driven the stock price up 250% the last year: the deal with OpenAI and the deal with Meta. But more than that, they have the businesses that are going on before, and also a lot of other interesting deals that they are winning that you need to think about when you are talking about the AMD story and the future prospects of the company, and if the increase in the stock price and market cap is sustainable. So here, the 16th of April, we had a deal with the France government. Those deals are often, what can I say? We don't know the true number of the deployment in terms of gigawatts of computational power, but we know that France is a very, in terms of through a European perspective, very big country that are quite tech savvy. So this can be actually a very important deals for them. And yeah, Europe wants to be more sustainable and having, um, what can I say? They want to build their AI infrastructure themselves, and collaborating with AMD like this, AMD who provides that open source model in terms of their products. They don't lock in the vendors in the same way that Nvidia is doing. Is sometimes an approach that the countries like. They had a similar deal, I think, in South Korea, that they are expanding their footprint, and I think these type of deals long term will be very impactful in terms of revenue, even though short term this is not the biggest deal. I guess long term is good to have close relationship with the governments, not just that it's a revenue stream, but it also you learn a lot in terms of the regulatory landscape in that country and in that area of the world. And AMD being a global company, yeah, here they announced, yeah, they are gonna soon, next week, report the fiscal first quarter of 2026. That will be very interesting. After seeing the stock being up so much, I'm a bit worried that short term maybe that quarterly result would drive the stock down. And sometimes when you report in May, and I've seen this before, the market turns a bit sour. So maybe I've seen so many times AMD stock deserves being higher in terms of market cap and stock price, and then I've seen the reaction of an amazing quarterly results and long term plan being negative. So I have short term, I can't promise that, despite being a great quarter, that the reaction on the quarterly result here next week will be fantastic. But who knows? Maybe we have some momentum now in terms of AI companies and semiconductor companies, or maybe they have just increased too fast and we will have a bit of a pullback. We will see. Also, I need to show you this. It was a very important announcement that they are securing the needs in terms of memory chips long term. This is very important for a company like AMD, who's building CPUs and also rack scale solutions with their new GPU Helios. So, what this deal really means, you can read here. They are doing a share commitment to advanced AI computing, and this agreement reflects the growing scope of the collaboration. Zhang Yun, Vice Chairman and CEO of Samsung Electronics, said. So, from an industry-leading HBM4, that's memory, and the next generation memory architectures to cutting-edge foundry and advanced packaging, Samsung is uniquely positioned to deliver unrivaled turnkey capabilities that support AMD's evolving AI roadmap. And that is correct. Samsung is one of the three companies out there, the SK Unix and also Micron, that are providing this type of fundamentally important memory solutions. We have seen these companies' share price just skyrocket also lately. And obviously, if you follow Micron, you have seen their stock price like up 500% because there is a crunch in terms of price for DRAM, etc. And that is why it's so important for companies like AMD to secure long-term deals with these type of companies, so they can continue to um, provide customers with their roadmap and be on point with the deliveries and the quality, and also have that high gross margin that they want. They can't just pay enormously sums for memberships. They need to have long-term deals with these companies, so they can Samsung, they can kind of when they create their memberships, they have sustainability in the demand. And AMD, they can do very big orders, so they can decrease the price on the orders of the membership. So it's kind of a good deal for both companies. And this is important because there are big companies that have come to Samsung, for example Microsoft, and they said, sorry, we don't have more space to sell any more memberships. So seeing AMD have this close collaboration with Samsung is great. It's a um, great news if you are an AMD, both an investor, but also if you work for them or are the CEO of AMD. This is very, very important. So I was very glad when I read this news, because I was a bit worried about the membership situation and the prices just continue to climb. And yeah, they are saying they are bringing together their leadership in advanced memory with our GPUs and Epic CPUs and rack scale platforms integration across. Yeah, the kind of offering AMD has, and I guess Samsung will use some of that. Um, a company like Samsung, they also need CPUs, GPUs, data centers, etc. So they will probably use some of AMD's products, and AMD will use some of Samsung products. So it will be a close collaboration that will make both companies better, I guess. And this shows that AMD's offering is very, very good, because if it wasn't, Samsung wouldn't approve or agree with this type of deal. And yeah, more closely, Samsung's HBM4 is built on its most advanced sixth generation 10 nanometers class DRAM and process 1C and therefore NM logic based tie, featuring very high speeds, etc. I don't want to get stuck here too much in the nitty gritty. But what we can say about the new Helios rack scale solutions, the MI450X GPU solutions that we have talked about a lot, that is, it's using a lot more HBM4 memories than before. And that is why it's so important for AMD to have these type of deals, and the complexity of the next generation rack scale solutions, not just from AMD, but from NVIDIA, etc., are demanding more memory, and that is why you have seen a crunch on memory chips out there. And yeah, the MI455X GPUs will serve as a key building block for yeah, exactly what I said. And yeah, Samsung and AMD will also work together on high performance optimized. Yeah, they will kind of work close together. They are very complex systems, and therefore you need to collaborate with your counterpart here to get a lot out of it. So yeah, that is also something that is important in the bigger scheme of things in terms of the AMD story. I would say they can have struck these type of deals with important players. There are two deals out there that Wall Street are not talking about regarding AMD, and that is their close collaboration with both Sony and Sony PlayStation franchise, and same with Microsoft and their Xbox franchise. So we will have the PlayStation 6 coming probably 2028, but maybe autumn 2027 is also on the cards. And yeah, they are then rumored to have the AMD APU featuring Zen 6 CPU architecture and RDNA 5 graphics. So this is AMD's products really integrating into the console, meaning they will have a very sticky income and revenue from this deal long term. And I followed how this type of revenue often works for AMD, and is a bit lower gross margin in terms of how much they earn for every product compared to like other segments like a GPU sale right to a customer, like to a hyperscaler. But still, it's important cash flow long term that can provide them with the money needed to fund more R&D, etc. So it's still very important money for AMD, and that is why they still care about this category of customers, while some other companies, for example, like Nvidia, maybe these type of deals is too small for them to be focused on. So obviously, you see here they are in the architecture, the performance, chip design, etc. Just providing them with the GPU and CPUs needed for this console. And in terms of revenue, I would say maybe per year. This could be $3 to $5 billion per year in revenue for AMD, and with a gross margin maybe a bit lower. Maybe you could see 1 to $2 billion that can we can use for the earnings through a deal with PS6 and Sony PlayStation. But also, they are not just expected to power the next generation PlayStation, also the next generation of Xbox that are coming probably 2027 and 2028 also. I think Xbox might launch earlier than PlayStation, we will see. And the Project Helix, the next generation Xbox, are also building on the RDNA 5 GPU architecture from AMD. And yeah, I think the spec is quite similar between, in terms of the products they will use at Sony PlayStation and at Microsoft. Probably at PlayStation, they are doing some more co-development between Sony and AMD. I've read some there, and maybe at the Microsoft part, they are doing a more. You can read here. I think the silicon is more like not custom made the same way that it is at Sony, so it might be some small differences between them. But I guess for these type of consoles, we could see maybe per console six bullish case, $6 billion per year, $12 billion per year in. That's a lot for AMD. Just see their I say the revenue they have the latest year, it was like $34 billion. So if they could reach $10 to $12 billion just from consoles, that would be huge. And you must know that compared to former generations where they have powered also, the newer generations of consoles is more complex, and that means more computational needs, and therefore the pricing power of AMD's products will increase obviously, and the the number of nodes and the number of connections and CPU, the complexity and solution of the CPU and GPUs will just bring more money and better gross margins for AMD. So this is something that is not priced in, I would say, fully, and I expect AMD to really make use of the cash flow from these deals long term. And also, I think it will be, since the PlayStation 4, the first new console I will buy will be a PS6 or an Xbox Helix. So I'm really looking forward to the next generation. It's time for me to dip my toes into the gaming space again. Also, the kids being a bit older now, it's time to have some fun, I would say. Okay, I just want to do a fast economic analysis of AMD before I end this video. And I'm using Finance at Yahoo. That's a free tool. I'm doing that to show you that you don't need to pay hefty sums just to get the most important information you need to do some research. So here we have the latest 5-year chart of AMD, and as you see, there has been some ups and downs. So when you invest in a company, you need to do your own due diligence, because if you don't, you will get paper hands and sell at the bottom. It hurts so much when you invest in a company. Maybe you invest up here 2022 at 151, and then the stock price go down to 56. It pains so much, and you feel like you have done the wrong analysis, and you might sell. And then where are we now? 337. So obviously that shows you that being able to stick to your companies through ups and downs is something important long term. Obviously, if this company would have been Nike instead, it would have been good to sell. So still, it's not always good to have diamond hands. But if you have done your analysis and know this company is actually going somewhere long term, like we know with, or would have known with AMD if we did our research, and you are certain about that, then sometimes it's just easier if you read a lot about the companies and you don't just follow your impulse. Anyway, here you can see the drastic increase in stock price for AMD this year. That is why I feel like the stock is quite hot going into this earning. And sometimes Wall Street and investors, they buy a lot on the expectations, and then when earnings drop, even if it's an amazing earnings, the stock price kind of plummet down a bit, like 8 to 10%. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that happens, because we have had such a massive increase in the share price of AMD short term, and this is a big company now. So that means there are a lot of billions going from 200 to 300 $37 per share. That is actually over $100 billion in market cap, meaning the expectations of the company increase with every extra percent now, and that increase a lot more. So that is why Wall Street might get a little bit more picky short term. Even though I still feel like long term the valuation at the moment isn't something that I am afraid of regarding AMD. Um, a short outlook on the financials here. You can see the last couple of years they have went from 2022, $23.6 billion in revenue, and latest 12 months, $34.6 billion. So this company is growing fine, and just I think the estimates for 2027 is around $65 billion, something like that. So this company is really going on all cylinders now and are finally hitting that sweet spot they have been building towards for many years, and that are answering to what I've talked about here today, with a lot of different things that are just playing into the hands of AMD, with the world's computational needs just being so high. And this also means that they can have bigger cash flow, more revenue for a company like AMD, revenue with high gross margin, like their more complex solutions in the GPU space. Also means they can, from their revenue, gain more net income, and that is what Love Street loves, and that is why, or also something that is required for a stock price to just keep increasing. So uh, having a high gross margin basically means for every dollar you sell, you get a lot more gross profit from that. So, for example, if you sell groceries, you will have massive revenue, but the groceries you sell, you have bought them for almost the same sum. So um, the gross profit is not as much differ from it. But having businesses like, for example, selling GPUs, the gross margins are very high, so you don't have to need as much revenue as some other companies just to get that beautiful increase in share price. If you hit that, what can I say, that sweet spot in the marketplace where you can dictate the prices, and that is where AMD has been heading lately. So I like what I see there. They are getting closer. They are not in the same kind of gross margin potential as Broadcom and Nvidia at the moment, and maybe they won't reach maybe ever that high, because when they are closing in, maybe Nvidia and Broadcom's gross margin are actually getting smaller based on the market space as a whole, and a lot of companies that are competing in the space. We know that some of the hyperscalers, especially Amazon and Google, are doing more TPUs and kind of products in this area. So anyway, that was little bit of maybe out of topic. Just because before I round off this video, I want to show you here they have been in line, I guess, or beating the earnings trends lately, the latest quarter. So that means they are probably gonna beat again. When you listen to earnings call from Lisa Su, maybe I've listened to 60 earnings call or something from Lisa Su. They are very often lowballing the revenue numbers, and when earnings comes, they are doing better both at revenue and earnings. So that is my expectation as always. I would say it's a bit harsh to really know how the situation in the Middle East, if that is impacting AMD anything, because I know they have some project going on in the Middle East. And also regarding the China situation, last quarter they actually got a lot of revenue from China. Is that continuing or not? That might also skew the earnings a bit, and might affect the perception from Wall Street, even though last earnings Wall Street did not really care about the China situation. They were like, oh sure, that's $500 million. We don't care about that at the moment. We didn't really long term believe that this is something that will stick, something like that, when I listened between the lines or read some articles. So we will see about that. Also here you can find that you can find a nice trajectory in terms of revenue growth the latest quarters. This is what we want to see, and also gains here in earnings. And yeah, the latest quarters of, or the last quarter of 2025 was amazing for AMD, and that just reinforced my investment thesis long term for this company. And you can see here also the next 2027 we have some different estimates of where the revenues are coming between The low is $50 billion, the highest is $93 billion, and the average is $68 billion. So that is like doubled from 2025 to 2027. So this company is such an increase that I think is hard to fathom. And yeah, it's interesting that Wall Street has waited so long until they pump this stock up, because having if they reach like $68 billion or maybe more, obviously the market cap at the moment will increase even more, because it's not still as high, but I guess it's about half $1 trillion, a bit more than that. And if they have revenues close to like $93 billion dollars, their total market cap will be over $1 trillion. So that is something to keep in mind, and something that I do keep in mind long term, because I think the deals they have, my thesis is they will perform on the deals, and they might get even more. Um, what can I say, deals from hyperscalers for their GPU solutions, because every hyperscaler wants to have a diversification in terms of the type of products they have. They don't want to buy all the GPUs from Nvidia, because that becomes very expensive. So having AMD as a company that provides similar solutions is very good for a lot of the hyperscalers. They can or what can I say, earn more money or save expenses doing that. So a company I think might increase their deployments of AMD products if the deals and the execution of them works with OpenAI and Meta is, for example, Microsoft. They have a close collaboration with Microsoft, and obviously continue having the deals with Samsung, Sony, maybe expanding. I think it's harder for them to expand with Amazon and Google, even though they have a lot of CPU deals with Google and Amazon. Getting GPU deals with these companies that are doing their own TPUs and having a lot of deals with Nvidia will be a bit harder, but we will see long term if they can have a better product, or maybe almost as good product as Nvidia for a lot lower price per token, they can actually gain market share. So we will see, and maybe more deals with governments, etc. That is the bull case. But do your own due diligence. Don't be impatient short term. I think this stock has increased so fast that we might have a pullback zone sometime. We will see. Anyway, that was today and my take today, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me. Have a wonderful day.